friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tammy Ernest, for those of you who are new, and I am a longarm quilter. And here on my channel, I like to share customer finishes as well as my own projects. And so this week we have, I'll be going through the Sew Sampler box I just received in the mail yesterday. And I'll be giving some updates on the antique quilts that I've been working with. And then we have some longarm finishes. So let's start today with the Sew Sampler box. So each month when I receive this in the mail, I like to show you guys the products that are included. So this comes once a month from the Fat Quarter Shop, and I received this in the mail yesterday. So this is the April box. When you open the box, there's always a little card. This one says, "Life is better in the garden." Usually on the back there is a coupon code. This time they have included that in a separate card, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But what they're advertising on the back of this card this time is the new quilt along. So this started last month. They gave us the first block. I'm trying to get the glare off of there. They started the first block for this quilt along, and this is called Pressed Flowers, and this is just an insert to say that the whole quilt kit, if you want to buy the fabric kit that goes along with the quilt along, that'll be available soon. It's not available yet. It says they'll be using a Bunny Hill Designs line called Sugarberry. And if you can see the picture in here, it looks like some reds of the florals. It looks like either a brown or a dark brown or a black gingham. So it looks like the colorways are browns and reds and pinks. And so when I was looking at this yesterday, let me dig a little deeper and find the actual quilt block for this month. Ooh, pretty. Oh, this is block 1. Okay. I was thinking for some reason the first block came out last month. But maybe that was just the finishing kit. I forget now. Okay, so it says block 1 is called Delphinium. So it must be, I'm wondering, by naming the block 1 a certain name, if we're going to have all different types of flowers. So you can see a little better the colorway, the reds with the pink center, and I really can't tell whether it looks like a brown, maybe a brown and gray gingham. I like this colorway. I haven't decided whether I want to spend money on another fabric kit, because I did just do the one for the Calico Garden quilt along with Lori Holt, so I'm not sure. I'll look at the price when it comes out. I may just end up pulling from my stash. And maybe even instead of, I don't know if I have any of that rosy color, but maybe some pinks. I like pink and brown quilts, and I've never made one on my own. So maybe if I have enough of a contrast that I can do some deeper pinks and then lighter pinks for that. So I'll see what I have. And then when the cost of that kit comes out, I can kind of determine whether I really want to do that. I like the colorway. It's not that. It's just whether I want to spend the money out for it right now. So so nice. I like it. I haven't finished my the Bliss quilt along yet. I'll show you all that I'm working on today, and maybe once I get done with the Calico Garden quilt along, and that I can get back to that Bliss one. So anyway, the card inside this time says Lucky 7. 7 for 7, celebrating 7 years of Sew Sampler. I have not been with Sew Sampler that long. I did it several years ago and then stopped for a while. That may have been 2020 time period where you kind of panic and you get rid of all those frivolous expenses, I guess. And then I came back to it probably a year and a half ago. But on the back of this card are all different kinds of promos and coupons, some free shipping for a certain dollar amount, a free Jolly Bar book with a certain dollar amount, and some percentage off with some other fabric things. And so usually a pretty good coupon in here. And then inside you get this little booklet, and this is really nice just to get an overview of everything that is in the box. Kind of describes it all. And so let's start through with some of the products. So inside the box is always some sort of pre-cut. And so this time it is called Sweet Acres. Let me take the plastic off of this. This is called Sweet Acres, Pickers Patch Sweet Acres. This is a fat quarter bundle of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 prints. So this, it's a light, I would say it's a pink, but towards the melon side of pink. And then there's a light blue, another light blue with a smaller flower print. I like that one. That's a green gingham with some red flowers overlaid. Those are really cute. And then the yellow one actually has some canning jars, or vases at least, if they're not canning jars. I guess I always think canning jars. That's what we put flowers in. We put all kinds. I decorate with mason jars. Everything from buttons to old spools to we use the smaller ones as our cups that we drink out of, the glasses that we drink out of. We use them. I have buttons in them, if I didn't already say that. I put everything in mason jars. And another one of the things I decorate with is the canners themselves. So once they get holes in them, you know, from rusting through or something, I've used them outside to put plants in. I keep them inside. And I have, like inside our back door in our mud room, we have an old cook stove, and on that cook stove is a couple of these old canners, and so it's a great place to hide gloves or hats or dog leashes and that kind of stuff. So I use the canners all the time, but mason jars, that's what I thought when I saw that print, mason jars. We even keep some of our spices in mason jars, nuts, flaxseed, that kind of stuff I keep in mason jars in the cabinet. So one of my favorite to decorate with. And then the last one is that green stripe. Almost a feed sack type feel to it, or what's that called? Something like that. Nice springy color palette, really cute. And then inside the box also is always a pattern that you can use that the pre-cut fabrics for. And so this time is called Pickers Patch. This is the quilt pattern. This is by Beverly McCullough of Flamingo Toes. So not the same designer. This is Sweet Acres. No, I'm wrong. Sweet Acres is by Beverly McCullough too. Sweet Acres is the name of the fabric line. Let me get this straight, okay? Sweet Acres is the name of the fabric line this time, and it is by Beverly McCullough, and she has done a pattern for it for that pre-cut. So, flowers. We got a whole flower theme going with so much. You can tell it's springtime. So a really cute pattern. This is 48 by 57, so a nice size. You use this fat quarter bundle. You need a white background print. You need that border print, and then a binding. And I like it. They use this sort of print for the binding. I always like a stripe binding. I think that's really cute. And then 3 1/4 yards for backing. So a cute pattern. I like this. I showed a quilt last week, the Garden Grove quilt that had kind of a different border on it, where it had like, you know, different in the corners, and this one has that same sort of design. I kind of like that. It's a nice touch to some quilts. That's really cute. So those two things. So like I said, the box always has some fabric, a pre-cut of some sort, and a pattern to go with that. And then there's always some little tools. So let's see what we have this month. We have a 2 screwdriver set. So this would be for use on your sewing machine, little bobbins. I say bobbins because my bobbin case on my long arm, if I need to adjust it, I have to use a little screwdriver like this. Regular sewing machine, you wouldn't be doing that, but there's always uses for these, especially if you've lost the ones that came with your sewing machine, or just to hide from the kids. There have been times my husband's bought me little screwdriver sets because the kids borrow them and then I never can find them again. And so I'll have to hide my little screwdriver sets. I've used it, even things like getting batteries out, you know, like a AA battery out of we have an elliptical, and when the batteries die on it, you got to get you got to pull those out, and I have a hard time sometimes. And so little screwdriver sets like these are perfect for popping those batteries out of a case. So anyway, that's that. Then there is this really cute needle minder. Let me take this out of the plastic. So a needle minder, I use these on my cross stitch, and you can put it on the fabric itself if you want, because it's got this little magnet, little tiny magnet on the back, and so it magnetizes. So you can use this on your fabric, especially if you use a hoop for your cross stitch. You can put this inside the hoop part, and when you set your needle down, I usually stick mine in my mouth, but this would be a much better place for it, is to stick your needle onto here, and it'll stay there while you're cutting your next piece of thread or whatever, you know, cutting your tails off of your thing. Now, this one doesn't look strong enough, but what I have done in the past is actually put these on my little design boards that I keep in my cross-stitch bags. This one may not be strong enough to go through, because my design boards are made from foam core board. And this one, I mean, it's pretty strong, but it may not be strong enough to go through that. I haven't tried that yet. But that's another place that I use these, is on my design boards for the same purpose, is to keep the needle. You can get bigger needle minders, and with a bigger magnet on the back. And if I have them on those design boards, then I can set my scissors on there too. And so really cute. You could even wear this as a pin. My daughters both have to wear name tags in the jobs that they're in, and they were one daughter came home. She normally doesn't wear her name tag home. She's a barista at a coffee shop, and she normally doesn't wear her name tag home, but last night we were sitting at dinner and she still had it on, and she pulled it off, and it's a magnet on the back, and I said, that's a sew tight magnet. If you're familiar with sew tights, people use them. Long armors will use longer ones to attach quilts to the leader bars, so that you don't have to use either the red snappers, or you don't have to pin your quilt tops on. But on the back of her name tag, it wasn't Sew Tights, that brand name, but that's exactly what it was. It was a wide bar magnet onto the back, and that's how they keep their name tags on. So I could put this on wear it as a pin. I need to make a name tag for my, I need to make a name tag for Guild. I've been in the Guild for 1.5 years, and I still haven't made a name tag. And you're supposed to donate money. Each time you come in without your name tag, you're supposed to donate money to the, like a kitty, but ours is a piggy. And you donate money to the piggy, and then that's what we use to donate to the church where we meet for our Guild meeting. But these would be really cute, these little needle minders to make a name tag, and then to put needle minders, just magnetized to the name tag. Kind of like, the guys that have their fishing hats and have all the fishing lures over it or something like that. This would be a really cute idea to put those on my name tag. Then I could collect needle minders and use them. A great way. I need a new needle minder for my name tag. To collect them from different places you're going. I think that would be a great thing. Anyway, some ideas. That's a great idea. All right, and so next thing in here is some iron cleaner. I'm always in need of iron cleaner. And I usually just buy I think it's Dritz, no, is it Dritz? I think it's Dritz. And I'll just get it at Walmart or something, but I like this one. It says Magic Iron Cleaner. let me see the description. Spring cleaning is upon us, and you can iron, and your iron can spring in on the action. This is a quilting and crafting iron cleaner by Faultless. Removes melted webs, fusibles, iron-on interfacing, and more, restoring your iron to press-worthy perfection. So I'll be interested in using this. I don't clean my iron regularly. I clean it when I have a problem with it. Now I have the one iron that I use for ironing clothes, and I will use, it's a regular household iron. I use it for ironing my husband's shirts, and I use it for ironing large pieces of fabric. When I am in my sewing room, I am using an antique iron. Lori Holt got me onto those antique irons, and it's heavy, no steam, and my husband's had to replace or fix the cord for me several times because the way mine is, it sits up on its end, which bends that cord, and over time it eventually wears through, and my husband has to fix the cord for me. But both irons, I have used iron cleaner on both of them, even the antique one and the household iron that we have. And it's just something that I have to do every once in a while when things start sticking to it or get a little dirty. So another brand, I haven't looked, again, one of those things I don't know that I need it until I get it. I usually just buy mine at Walmart. So I'll be interested in using this and see, I'll try using it and see, let you know what I think, whether it's as good as or better than or whatever from the normal brand I buy. And then the last thing in the box, these are cord wraps. These are also from the Featherweight shop. And let me take these out. I like the how they're styled after Ric Rac. Aren't those cute? So there's a set of 3 of them. And these will be perfect for wrapping up cords in my sewing room. So they're Velcro around on each other, or stick them through like this. You can get things like this in the hardware section of stores, but how much cuter to have colored ones and ones that look like Ric Rac. Aren't those really cute? And then fold it over on itself. So for winding up cords, yeah, that's what it says. Cord wrap, Ric Rac set of 3. I think those are really cute. So I will have links to all of these things in the description below. It would be really cool if these come in different colors. I don't know that yet. I haven't looked it up. But that's really cute. I'm all about having fun, doing the cutesy things in my sewing room just to make it fun. I love having cute things around me. It's really nice. I just got to hide these so nobody else finds them. Don't want my husband borrowing those or my kids finding some use for them. So that's the box this month, and some really cute stuff. Be excited to get started on the quilt along, and try to fit in some time to do some of these patterns. I get one in each month, and I haven't done very many of them, but I started these sew-alongs, and I need to finish those, and then the client quilts that I have in too. So I would like to get started on some of those, and I will definitely show you if and when I use them. All right. All right, so let me do some updates on some of the projects that I've been working on. I have been working on my So Scrappy spools, and April is almost over, and I was trying to get the April blocks done to show you today, and I have them all done except the very last step when you put the brown spool top and bottom on it, and I cut them the wrong size. I cut them 5.5, I don't know what I was looking at. I cut them 5.5 inches, which is what the white ones are cut at. And I cut these brown strips at 5.5, and they needed to be 8.5. And that was, I didn't realize it until after I had put all of the little corner triangles on all of them. So I can still use those. They're 1.5 inch squares. And I still can use them if I want to pull them off or just or just cut some new ones. But so I didn't get those done to show you today. So I'll definitely have those for next week. I did not work on any of my calico garden sew along this week. I've been busy with some other projects, so hopefully I can do some of that this week and get back to you with some of my updates on that. But what I have been working on, so last week I showed you this quilt that I have been making for a client. I've been working with her for several years from different projects and things that she, that her her mother and her aunt had left. They were both quilters, and some of the projects they left but weren't quite finished with. And one of the things that she gave me was pillowcases and some table toppers and things that had been either appliqued or cross-stitched or even crocheted. And so I've had these for a while and have been trying to figure out a pattern to use. Another client did a quilt and asked me to long arm it, and when I got to her house to pick it up, I said I need to find that pattern because that will be the perfect pattern for this other client. So Marcia gave me the pattern once she was done with it, and that's exactly what this pattern does, is using antique textiles and putting them into a quilt so that we can see them and display them and enjoy the handiwork of those who have gone before us. So I showed you this last week, and now I have all of the blocks finished. And let me just hold these up so you can see. Okay, first of all, I have to show you my little markers, and I showed you these last week, but now I have all of them. So these are row markers, sorry. These are row markers, and these are called jumbo number markers. And this is Seams Sew Me. I wrote it down so I would remember. Seams Sew Me, and I'll put the link in the description below. I have no affiliation with her. I just saw these on Instagram and bought myself a set. There is also a whole set of not numbers. There's also a whole set of alphabet too, and I do have those as well. But these are row markers. You could also, so I'm using them as row markers. So this whole set right here is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, and 5, as you can tell. You could use these for blocks, especially if you're doing a pattern that marks the blocks A, B, C, D blocks, then you can use the alphabet ones to stack up your block. And so they're just a very large paper clip, antique looking. I don't think they're actually antique. Antique looking paper clip, and then she has put, again, they're not old by any means, but just a really cute reproduction type thing, and she has put the little number on there and then the alphabet on the other set. So very, very cute. So this is row 1, and I think I showed this one last week. So let me go on to some of the others. I think I showed you this one last week. This is the first one in row 2. I bought a jelly roll, and it's called Grace, put out by Brenda Riddle. And that is the whole fabric line I am using as the borders or the sashing strips on these. So, and this is probably my favorite block in the whole thing. This is all hand embroidery work, and then this is crocheted. And this is the actual pillowcase. It did her dress, and then this is the edge of the pillowcase. And the actual crocheted then went all the way around the edge of the pillowcase. It was absolutely beautiful. And several of these were like that, but this was the most intricate, having been the dress part of it too. So this block itself, because this part was crocheted, I left, how do I explain this? The crocheted part had nothing behind it. So what I did when I cut this block out, it was a pillowcase, and so I left it laid with the other side of the pillowcase underneath it too, you know, so I just laid it down. When I cut it, I laid the whole pillowcase out. And I actually cut through both layers, both the top and the back of the pillowcase, and then so that I had this white layer underneath the crocheted part. And then I just did a stay stitch all the way around that block. So this is actually 2 layers of fabric. We're going to talk about t-shirt quilts later on, and with t-shirt quilts, you need an interfacing underneath it. These were all cotton pillowcases, most part, a couple of them, the tablecloths weren't cotton, but they weren't stretchy. And so I was able just to use the one layer. I did not use an interfacing of any type. But this one actually has two because I needed something behind this crocheted part so that when I do the quilting of it, you're not going to see the batting in between there. Okay, so I hope that explains that. This one, I think I might have shown this one last week too. This one is probably the brightest colors, the oranges, and that's why I chose the green gingham as the border on that one. So then even the, this is so pretty too. Even these triangle, I said that last week, these are not triangles, these are squares. Even these squares, I am using part of the either cross stitch or embroidered pieces, and then also using just other white pieces from the pillowcases or the tablecloth. So the only thing in this quilt top that, dropped my marker there. The only thing in this quilt top that I purchased and am adding are the floral sashing strips. Now I will need to add a backing fabric to it, and I haven't chosen one for that yet, but everything else on the quilt top itself, you can see that real pretty one, is I have tried to cut as much as I can from the pillowcases to include into this top. So I think some of those I actually showed last week. This is row 3. And some of them, you know, because you had 2 matching pillowcases, so most of these blocks you have two of, same side. Now let me show you this. There was a set of pillowcases that were his and her pillowcases. So this is the his one, and I put a blue, actually this isn't the blue fabric that I had picked out at first. I cut that one the wrong size, and so I went with this blue floral, and it works. And then here's the hers one. And I put these right next to each other in the quilt top, and I did this one in a pink floral. So he has the blue floral and she has the green floral. Originally I had a blue that was part of the same fabric line. I had a blue, but it wasn't a floral. It was a blue with some white print on it, and I cut that the wrong size. However, when I started, I got all the blocks together, and then, let me show you the pattern again. And then you can see right now all I have done is this inner block here, but then you have this next section out. I'm doing mine a little different. I explained this last week. Instead of cutting these 2 pieces as separate, I'm cutting them as one, which means I just need to, I need to coordinate these little sashing squares together. Instead of making this whole block, I've really made this block, and then I'm doing this inner piece, and then I'm connecting it with this one. And actually what I'm doing is I'm making this as one whole row, this across the top, joining this together, so then I have this row, but it can be joined all different kinds of ways. That's just the way I'm choosing to do it. But when I cut my fabric, I was using, because this is a jelly roll, so they're all 2.5-inch strips, and not all of the prints in the jelly roll are doubled. Some of them are, but not all of them. And when I measured it, I cut my 4 strips here, and then I cut 4 2.5-inch squares, thinking that, and that used up every inch of that strip of the jelly roll. Somewhere I even had to use a little tiny bit of the selvage just to make sure it was enough. And then as I'm putting this together this week, realize I need 8. I need 8 2.5-inch squares for each of those blocks, not 4. And so then I thought, because I didn't use every strip in the jelly roll, I thought, well, maybe I'll just use some of the other colors. And I thought, nope. I want this to match so that when I put it together, you can see that whole block there. So I have ordered a second jelly roll. It should be here tomorrow. And so all that to say, this one, his block that I did, and I had to use the separate, I had to use this blue floral. I need to decide once that other jelly roll gets here if I take this back apart and use the other blue instead. When I was laying this out, another little hint, the reason I used a different blue is when I was laying this out, I was trying not to do two big florals next to each other. So you see these two blocks are going to be next to each other in the quilt. And I didn't want two big florals next to each other. So for example, in this row, this will be block, so there's 4 blocks in a row. This would be block 3 and this would be block 4. And so I tried to use a larger floral and then a smaller floral. And then this one would have been 2 and 3 in that row. And I had a different blue. It was a different print. It wasn't a large floral. And I don't quite like the look of two large floral prints beside each other in the quilt. So let me show you another row to show you what I mean. I hope I'm that's making sense. Just from a layout, a design perspective, to alternate the scale of fabrics that are next to each other. So this is row 4, and this is the first block in the row. And then here is block 2 of that row. And so do you see how this is a larger floral, larger scale? This is a little smaller scale. I would say this is a medium scale, okay? So that's block 1, block 2, block 3, there's another one of those. That's the second pillowcase with the lady on it. That one I went back to a larger floral. And then for block 4, I actually did a gingham, okay? And now not only that, but it matches up with the rows, you know, so this is row 4, so row 5 and row 3 above it, I tried not to put a large scale floral in row 3 right above this block or down below. I've alternated. So when I lay it out, I don't have a design board. My sewing room doesn't have a large enough wall for a design board, so I'm laying this out on the living room floor. And I will lay it all out and I will move pieces around so that I get as much variety, and I don't want those large scale prints or all the small scale prints together. I'm trying to mix and match that along with color. I didn't want 2 yellows next to each other. I didn't want 2 blues next to each other. So, so it sometimes takes a while to lay it out and to get it all so it coordinates, and so it's diversified. And I just think design-wise, it's a lot more appealing if we're not putting the same scale or the same colors next to each other, unless it's meant to be that way. You know, so say you're doing a pink quilt. You know, I showed the pink log cabin quilt last week, and obviously that was all pinks except for those little green corners or green center blocks. And that's where your eye rests, you know, when you're doing that. So just a hint there as you're laying out. Another hint when you're laying out fabrics, when I'm laying out a quilt on the floor, another thing that I will do is I will take a picture of the entire quilt top laid out, and then I will change that in I will edit the photo to go to a monochrome. And so it's changing it to your blacks and whites and your grays. When you do that, and then when you look at the photo, you can see whether you've got all of your dark prints on one side of the quilt and all your light prints on one side of the quilt, or if you have a good mix and match. When you switch it to black and white, monochrome, you can see the tones come out in your fabrics, so whether it's a darker or a lighter fabric. And sometimes the color is deceiving. You may think this is a dark print when it's really not. When you take that picture and all of a sudden it's washed out, it just depends on the tone of the fabric. So that's just another hint. Take your picture, change it to monochrome, and see if you've got spots that are too heavy, is what it feels like. If you've got all dark prints congregated over here, it feels too heavy on that side of the quilt. And so I will try to move blocks around so that it just feels even and all that. So just a little trick to try. So once that jelly roll gets here tomorrow, I'll be able to cut the rest of those 2.5-inch squares, and I'll be able to get this quilt together. And then hopefully next week I can show you the quilt top. We'll see how much of it I get done. And got most of the other pieces all cut and ready. So here are some of that's the back side. Here are some of those pieces that will go in between the two blocks. So instead of cutting them this way and joining them together, I cut them larger so that I can fill in that whole space. This one says handkerchiefs. And this was a really cute, this was an embroidered little bag. Kind of looked like, if you remember, like a bag for clothespins that you would hang on the clothesline. That's what this looked like. And so we were the client and I were kind of talking. It's like, so did they shove dirty handkerchiefs into this little bag and then wash them in there? Or was it a way, kind of a catch-all for the husbands, you know, or was this for the wife, you know, because there was a time when the ladies carried them, carried their hankies too. And so was this something that she had, you know, in the bedroom, and then put her hankies in there when they were dirty to hold them until they came wash day so they didn't get lost in the rest of dirty clothes? It was very interesting. But we cut that one, this off the front of that to be able to use in this quilt. And then just some of the other, you know, we saw some of these designs. So this part right here, this side, this was the rest of that his or hers, that little pattern, but I can use this in that section of the quilt too. So I have all of those ready to go, so when that next jelly roll gets here, I can start back on those. All right, and then the other thing I showed you from the same client I showed you last week was the spools quilt. I did get this one on the long arm. I did not get the binding finished, but let me insert a picture here of the whole quilt so you can see what I did. And then I'll also insert a picture of the back to show you what I did. Okay, so you can see from that picture, last week we talked and I had those extra 6 blocks and I had them stacked 3 on 3. And I decided for the back of this quilt to go ahead and make that one long strip. And so you saw that in the picture. Let me just show you up close here. Just thought it worked better on the back to do it one long strip across the back. And you see where it's washed out? Those are light color fabrics. And what we were just talking about in taking a picture of your quilt and changing it to monochrome, that's something like that would disappear. You know, you can kind of see that same example there. All right, so let me show you the front. Stitched out very nicely, and the most fun thing about doing this is looking at all the different fabrics as I was stitching it out. Obviously these were like, you know, men's shirts, ladies' dresses, little girls' clothes. This one I think I showed you last week. This reminds me of like the ladies would wear like the skirts with the matching jacket. Or it could have been a man's, but I kind of picture it as a lady's. Just all different fabrics. You know, was it a lady's house dress? Was it a man's shirt? All of these are cut from, could be clothing, could be other, you know, textiles from the home. They were all machine stitched as well, but used with cut through templates. And you can go back to last week's video and where I show those templates. That was really cute, really interesting history there. So just all the different blocks. So I did, this pantograph is called Siren. I got a fuzz there. So you can see it better on this side. This is called Siren. I had not used this pantograph before. I just like the movement of this one because the spools have so many straight, solid lines, but kind of a hint of history there, kind of a feathery without being feathers, and just a really, really cute. Stitched out very easily. So that's called Siren, S-I-R-E-N. That sounds funny when I say it, I don't know why. But I'll be doing a binding on this, and I really think I'm going to do the same blue binding, do a blue binding just like the back of it. So that's come together nicely. Be excited to get this back to the client soon. So there's another picture of the back with the spools across the back. So really fun, really fun. I'll be anxious to get those two projects finished. So that's what's kept me busy this week on my personal project side. I mean, those are client quilts, but those are the things that I'm doing with the long arms running. Because I do a digitized long arm, I can set it to stitch a row, and I can be working on the other side of my sewing room on some projects on the sewing machine. I do need to stay close by so that I can hear if thread breaks or bobbin runs out, or just depending on how long that pass takes to go across the edge of the quilt. Sometimes, you know, it could, depending on the design. I mean, sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes, and just depends. But I usually stay close by, and those are the projects that I work on while the long arm is running. So let's move on to some client quilts. So the first one is a Christmas piece, and let me insert a picture here so you can see it. All right, so Sarah brought me this one. This is one she worked on when she went to a retreat. She did a retreat, just her and her friends, which sounded really neat. And I'm going to be talking about that in my newsletter, I think maybe this week. A retreat, a crafting retreat place that she told me about here in north side of Indianapolis. So those of you that are from Indianapolis area, you'll be interested in that. Or even if you're a little farther out and want to do a retreat with a group of your friends, this would be a great place to do it at. So I will write about that in my newsletter. You can check out that there. But this is a cute Christmas piece. This is a wall hanging. The size of this is 29 by 33, so this will be perfect for a wall hanging. And you can see how the blocks, this is very well laid out. So the red, those are just half square triangles, okay? On the red all the way around to make it look like a candy stripe. Then you have all the different blues to make the background around the tree. The tree itself is made, you know, with the half square triangles. The little baubles, that's what you want to call them. Those are just little corner pieces you're putting on and folding back, and then so it just takes a bit of planning. The stem, or the base of the tree, is some black, really cute. And then again, so very easy piecing work, but if you lay it out correctly, you get this great little wall hanging, and even the star, really cute. And then Sarah did a gray backing, a snowflake. Let me get the, yeah, there you go. You can see the snowflake, gray. And then for the pantograph, we went with, this is Christmas trees, and this is called Advent. So let me see if I can get it just right so that you can see. So the trees face different directions. So here, they kind of go back and forth. There, can you see? So some are down, some are pointing up. There is a star at the top of the tree. There you can see. So this one's kind of pointing down, this one's kind of pointing up. Here's the star. Then you got these little ornaments on the tree. I did this one pretty tight, and the reason is because this is a wall hanging. It's a smaller scale of a quilt, so I did a smaller scale of the pantograph. So that way it's it'll hang very easily, not a lot of fullness in the quilt, I guess I want to say. So really cute, really cute. Sarah's working on her Christmas early. She's got us all beat, I think. So I will put more information about that retreat center that her and her friends went to and in my newsletter this week, so you can check that out there. The next quilt I have is a baby quilt of Jennifer's, and so I will insert a picture so that you can see that. Isn't that adorable? I love the pinks and blues of this quilt. A lot of white space. One of my daughters came through as I was stitching this one, and she says, I just love the quilts that have all the white space on them. So I'm gonna hold it this side because the glare on the thing. So a very modern feel. Jennifer said that this quilt is called Lagoon, and if I can find the pattern for it, I will put that in the description. And I don't know the fabric line. I can ask her about that as well. So you have the darker blue with the pinks, and they're kind of metallic, if you can kind of see. It's a kind of a metallic bronzy pink on some of these. And even the flower print, it's kind of a pink metallic bronzy color. So you have the small scale print, and then you have the larger scale, and then you have the blue. So these two are the same print. This is just in the light color, and then there's in the blue color. So that gives you a really good look at the pantograph we chose too. This one's called Bubbles, and it's an all over print that just, it's a really fun one to stitch out because the line row over row actually overlap each other so that you can get the bubbles, you know, so the row itself is like this big, so you already have some of them overlapping, but you actually, when you set it up, you have the next row overlap the last row just a little bit so that they all blend in so well. It's a really cute one. Now I'm going to show you the back. The backing fabric is part of this same line, and it has that metallic. This one is a metallic one. It's showing up kind of funny of a rose color, but that's a metallic, and then you have the pink and the white. But with this bubble print, doesn't it just look, I mean, you don't even see it right there. You just can't even see it, but when you get in close here, it just looks like it's more bubbles on there. It almost looks like it's part of the fabric. I just think that was really cool. This is one that Jennifer said, I think I'd like the bubbles one. And I agreed, because it adds right to that backing fabric. And we did this this was in a white, obviously with the front being mostly whites. I used a white thread on the top and on the bobbin. You can see it there, but it just adds a whole second layer of effect because it matches that backing fabric so well. Yeah, really, really cute. This size is a 39 by 47 baby quilt. So really, really cute. I like that one. So many fun things. It is just, it is so fun to work with all these different fabrics, all the different patterns, all the different looks, and it is just so fun. I have the best job. I just had the best job. It is so much fun. All right, the second quilt that Jennifer gave to me is a T-shirt quilt, and I'll pull that out while you get to see some pictures of it. All right, Jennifer works at a school, and she told me that the principal of that school is retiring, and so she made this T-shirt quilt. These were all, from what I understand, new T-shirts that she purchased. I'm assuming, I don't know, I guess I can't say that for sure, but they all have to do with the school. And so the school mascot is a jaguar. And so Jennifer has done this T-shirt quilt, no sashing, just join the T-shirts right up to each other, right next to each other. And this is, let me count real quick, 1, 2, 3, 4 across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. So 20 T-shirts, and then with the blue border around it. And you have to see this backing fabric. This is a minky backing that is so soft, so soft. And I think this is so fun. For a T-shirt quilt, it's just perfect. I can just see somebody sitting out at a football game with this quilt. It just, this minky is so soft, and it just soaks up the quilting so well. And then the fact that it's a jaguar mascot just makes me think of fur. So I hope I don't offend anybody by that, but it just makes me think of fur. And it's just, it was a wonderful addition. So you can see the pantograph really easy. She asked if I had any paw prints. I did not in my current lineup of pantographs, but I went and found one, and this is exactly, if I could find, there was one of these T-shirts. Look at this paw print. One of the T-shirts has the exact paw. And so I was able to find that pantograph that looks just the same. Can you see it in here? Now, we did this one in a medium gray thread. I use a lot of medium gray on these types of colors, and especially because the back was gray, that was the natural choice for that. I just love the back. I like the back just as much as the front. I just really like that pantograph and how it just soaks right into minky. So I get that question a lot. Can I put a minky backing on my quilts? Absolutely. I have not had any trouble with minky. I know one of the other quilts I did for Jennifer, it was actually the Cuddle, and it's just super, super soft. Super soft, really easy to work with. So a couple hints when using the minky. Minky is very, there's a lot of lint, a lot of lint with minky, especially when you cut it. So for a backing, now Jennifer pieced this one and it worked out fine. It was a little stretchy when it was pieced, and I haven't talked to her. I don't know if she had trouble piecing that backing. If you're buying a wide enough one, then, and you're sending it to me, I would leave, or if I'm meeting with you, leave the selvages on, because those selvages do two things. That is what I can attach to the leaders to keep it from stretching, because those selvages are holding that fabric. So if you leave those selvages on, then that's what I can attach, and it just keeps some of the stretching from happening, okay? Second of all, by leaving the selvages on, it keeps some of that lint from just flying everywhere. And if you've worked with minky, you know what I'm talking about. When you cut, there's stuff everywhere. So if we can minimize the number of cuts that we have, then you're going to minimize a lot of that just that stuff that gets everywhere. So if you have a wide enough piece, you leave the selvages on. That's 2 cuts that we don't have to worry about. We only have the sides. It's only those sides that we have to deal with the stretching of it. So it's absolutely wonderful to work with. I love how it just soaks right in. The threads stitching soaks right into Minky. So not a problem at all working with it. Just a couple little hints there. And even if your piece of backing, your Minky backing is bigger, I will return all of those extras that are cut off. So, you know, if it's in a wide backing or whatever, if you leave the selvages on, I can return all of that to you, and it just makes it a little easier to load and a little less lint flying around. I wanted to give some other show you a couple other my favorite things when doing t-shirt quilts. I've been doing t-shirt quilts for a long time. I did not make this one. Jennifer did this one. But I've been doing t-shirt quilts for a long time. Just wanted to show you a couple of products that I use that are my favorite. So typically, most size t-shirts you can use, will use a 12.5-inch size. I have done t-shirts that were of a large man's that I actually went up to 16.5-inch squares. It just depends on the logos, whether you're using the front, the logos, or you know, the designs on the front of a t-shirt usually fit in within that 12.5 inches. Sometimes if you're using the back of t-shirts, they don't quite fit in that 12.5 measurement, and you may have to go a little larger. In the past, when I was cutting the t-shirts for t-shirt quilts, my typical thing, what I do is I will cut up the sides of the t-shirt and around the armholes if I know I can get just enough that way. And then I will use interfacing on that whole big piece of the front. My favorite interfacing to use, and I buy this by the bolt, this is Pellon, and it's the SF 101. This is a fusible interfacing. It is, this comes in 25 yards on the bolt, but it's only 20 inches wide. So this is not doubled over like a normal bolt of fabric. This is just, it's just this wide. So know that when you're purchasing it. This is, I buy it in white. I think it also comes in a black. I've not had any trouble using white on the back of dark t-shirts. And like I said, this is fusible. So what I will do, I will cut the t-shirt, like I said, down the sides. I usually cut off most of the collar or those heavy seams. I will leave the arm section, you know, different t-shirts are different ways. You know, some of them have the seams right here. If I need those seams, I will, you know, just cut it more of a rectangle shape. If I need those seams to be part of that 12.5 inches is what I'm trying to say, or 14.5 or 16.5, whatever size I'm using. You can leave those seams and keep them in the t-shirt if you need to have that extra space. So when I have that piece, I am not cutting my t-shirt at that point to the 12.5, to the exact size that I want. I am leaving it larger than that. Then what I will do is I will cut a whole strip of this, larger than the 12.5, 14.5, whatever size I'm using, but not so much that it hangs over the edge of the t-shirt. So if I have, let me say, you know, I've cut down a t-shirt and it's 18 inches wide, all right, and, you know, maybe 24 inches tall. 24 would be a little big, but maybe it's 18 by 18 or something like that. I'm going to cut this so it's about 17 inches wide, and I will cut the whole strip. And if I can use this whole thing, sometimes you usually can't, I'll have to cut a couple inches off the top of this, and then you can use those scraps for other t-shirts. So then what I will do is I will lay the t-shirt face down. I will put this interfacing over the top of that, but I have edges of t-shirt all the way around, and then I can use my iron. If you do it the other way, if you cut a bigger piece of interfacing and you put the t-shirt and you put the interfacing down first with the sticky side up, or, you know, the rough side, and then you put your t-shirt over the top of that and try to iron out, that's when your iron's going to touch some of that interfacing, and that's when you get gunk on your iron. Okay, so if we do it the other way, cut your interfacing a little smaller than the cut t-shirt, put the t-shirt face down, the interfacing on top of that, press your iron. I usually, I do not use my antique iron for this. I will use my household iron, and I will press down, and I usually wait 6-10 seconds here, 6-10 seconds here, and I'm going all of those spots. Once that cools, then I'm ready to cut it to size. I always put my interfacing on larger than the space I want to cut. Then when I'm going to cut, I used to just use my regular rulers, and I would actually go back and forth. I would go, okay, I need to cut a couple inches off of here and a couple inches off of here, trying to center that design into that 12.5 inches. And so I would use a little bit off of here, a little bit off of here, a little bit off of here, and I would keep trying to get it down. And not always did it work. Sometimes I'd have a design that's off a little bit. And then I discovered Lori Holt's Trim-It rulers. Now she uses these for her quilt-alongs, and she uses this to measure a block. So she will make a block, especially the applique blocks, she'll make them larger than she needs, and then she will cut them down to size. And so this is one of the largest sizes. She has these in every 2-inch, I think it's all in 2-inch increments. But what I found with these, I like this so much better for t-shirt quilts because it's all centered, okay? All of this point right here is centered. It automatically adds that blue rim around is your 1/4 inch seam. If you buy a regular, a different 12.5 inch ruler, it starts measuring from one side, which this measures from one side. But what I'm saying is it's hard to gauge the center because, especially if you're using a different size ruler, it's just hard to gauge the center because it's meant to be used for cutting, not for trimming. I find with this one, it shows me right where the center is on this 12.5 inch square. I can see my logo design inside this. I don't have a lot of stuff covering up my design, so I can see exactly where my t-shirt is, whether I need to move it up or down, over. I can see so much of it, and so I use these. I have the 12.5 inch size. I have the 8.5 inch size. If I was doing a larger quilt, I would buy one of these. It's just so invaluable in helping to center those t-shirts for your quilts. So this is one of my very favorite things. So I hope I explained that well and that understand. Another little hint, when you are, so then after you cut your t-shirts to size, and if you're joining them, most always with my t-shirt quilts, I'm putting a sashing in. This is absolutely cute too, not that you have to. It's just the design that I do most often, is I will put a sashing in. And I have found that when I am joining a t-shirt that has interfacing on the back with a cotton fabric, that I will, the tendency is to have your t-shirt on the bottom, your cotton fabric on the top, and run that through the sewing machine. I do not have a walking foot on my sewing machine. I know most people, I have a Bernina, an older Bernina, and most people have walking feet. I've never invested in one, but this is one of those situations, if you had a walking foot, it would be a lot better. I have learned though, that instead of having the t-shirt on the bottom and the cotton fabric on the top when you're running it through, if I'll switch it the other way, have the cotton fabric on the bottom and the t-shirt with the interfacing on the top, it feeds through so much more evenly. And my tendency is I usually, when I'm piecing, I'll put the larger piece that I'm piecing on the bottom and the smaller one on top. It's just easier to see, make sure things are lining up. So this is kind of opposite of what I normally do, because usually whatever cotton fabric you're adding onto a t-shirt is going to be the smaller piece. If it's a sashing, it's only going to be a 2.5 inch wide piece or something. So it's kind of opposite what I normally do, but I have found it feeds through the sewing machine a whole lot easier. with the interfacing t-shirt part on the top and the cotton fabric on the bottom. So just a little tip there. You might try that if you're having trouble with getting to the end and your t-shirts overlap and you've got one or the other that's coming through faster. That's just a little hint that's helped me. I do pin though. I pin almost everything I sew, unless it's like a little 1.5 inch squares. I pin everything. I don't pin when I'm doing like half square triangles, when I'm going across, unless it's really huge and I need it to stay in place. But I pin, and I run over my pins. But I like that precision. And maybe if I had a walking foot, I wouldn't need to pin, but I pin a lot. And just one of those things, I like it to be perfect. But even with pinning, I still found I would get those t-shirts, sometimes it would just, you get your little creases in there or your little tucks in there. And so I've just found if I put the t-shirt on the top and the cotton fabric on the bottom, it works a little bit better. So I will link these things in the description below. If you do a lot of t-shirt quilts, these are definitely worth the investment in that. So beautiful work. I have that upside down, but so beautiful. And you might think about minky backing. It's just, especially for it's a nice feel for a t-shirt quilt. Heaviness, it's a little heavy, but not thick. Okay. And especially if it's going to be something they're going to take to a ball game or something like that, I think it's really nice. And for, I was going to say for guys, I just think, just the bulkiness of that quilt, I think they would like it too. Personal preference, I guess. I don't find it a problem. But so there you go. There's t-shirt quilts. All right, so the next one, we've got one more baby quilt to discuss, and here's some pictures of that one. So this is a really cute quilt. Everything about this is fun. The pattern is fun. It's a very simple but modern, big pieces, so I'm sure it goes together really quickly. Lisa sent this quilt to me, as well as several others I'll be working on this week. I'm so excited to work on some of those. But this pattern is called Burn Bright by Modernly Morgan, and if I can find a link for that, I will put it in the description below. So the fabrics, I don't have the line of fabric that this is. I can ask Lisa about that because this is definitely cute. So you've got some owls there in that lime color. You've got some blues in lime, and then you've got the red. And then the center print are all different animals. So very playful, fun animals. You got monkey and the owl again, and an elephant, a giraffe. They're holding little flags. And remember the flags because that ties in with the back of it. Then the white fabric, from a distance it looks white. It is not white. It is a polka dot little, that is so pretty. The same reds and limes and turquoise. Let me get the right angle so that you can see that. Isn't that cute? Just really, really cute. All right, then on the back was a coordinating fabric with all the little flags that those animals were holding. I got to get the right angle with the, aren't those flags cute? Really fun. They all have little hearts on the center of them. So coordinate color-wise with the front, but a different fabric. And I'm sure it's all in the same line. Then she did a stripe down the middle of the back. And this size of quilt, I wrote it down, this is 41 by 41 square. So I'm assuming she had to do a stripe down the back to make it wide enough, because your fabric comes in 42, 44 inches wide. And when you're sending quilts to me, I need 4 inches larger on every side. So this is a perfect thing to do, to make a lot of contrast in your quilts, and just to make the back as fun as the front, instead of just doing another extra piece on the end, which is totally fine. You know, there's not a problem with that. But if you want to try something different, is to split your fabric in half and put a piece in the middle. So really cute. All right, so let's talk about the pantograph. So Lisa had asked for some suggestions. She kind of told me, you know, maybe we can find, let me hold it this way. Maybe we can find an owl print. I found 3 or 4 owl designs and sent those to her. And then, actually a print does this way. I had it right the first time. And I sent her several owl designs, and I said, but looking at your quilt top, I really like this pantograph as well, just as an option. And she sent it back. She says, absolutely. I like that one better than the owl ones. And the reason that she gave was that this one can kind of grow up with her grandson, instead of the owl one that was a very fun owl, much like this, and but could be kind of childish too. And so if you're wanting a quilt that might go into, you know, their early elementary years, then this might be a good choice. But how do I explain this? So this pattern is called hopscotch. And a lot of times when I'm doing quilts, you hear me talk about all the time, if there's a lot of stark straight lines on the front, I like to use a swirl, or I like to use a circle, or I like to use something like that spools one. There's a lot of straight lines on the front, and so I went with something a little more feathery. This is one of those times that this design is very similar. You can see it's got the same straight lines, very geometric, which the quilt top is very geometric, but it enhances the whole look of the quilt. The owls would have been really cute too. I'm not going away from that. They would have been really cute too. It just gives a whole different feel to the quilt. This is a little more of a modern feel, a little more boyish feel, and I just like it. Just enhanced the quilt top. What was already there that was very geometric, very straight, you know, a lot of triangles, geometric. And by adding this one, you've got some circles, so we're adding some interest there, but with the other straight lines, just was just really nice. And this is one of those pantographs I can't use on every quilt, you know, but when this quilt came through, I'm like, oh yeah, this one would look so nice. So, so always look through my my designs on my website, and I know I keep saying this, I need to update it. I really, really do. So not everything is on there that I have. It helps me when you send some suggestions of what you might like. But then I hope you're always open to some suggestions too, because sometimes just a quilt, when I get something like this, I'm like, it's just screaming for this. It's just screaming. And this isn't everybody's design, you know, and these are your quilts. I'm just working on them for a time for you, and then you have them for the rest of their history, or you're giving them to family and friends. So I want to do what you are comfortable with. And so I love your ideas. But sometimes if I make a suggestion, you can totally tell me no, totally tell me no. But this was so fun to do because I just knew this one was gonna work so well with this quilt top. So I was really happy when Lisa was willing to trust me on this one and say, yeah, I want you to try that. So, but if it's not your style, then go with what your style is and let me know that. I was talking with someone the other day that's sending some quilt tops to me, and she said, I don't like it really tight. I want my quilting to be loose, and absolutely I will meet her desires for that, because if it's not your style, then it's not something that you're gonna love, and I want you to love it when you get it back. So if you prefer a looser style, then please let me know that when you send it to me or when we meet together, so that I can meet your needs. I want you to love these when you get them back. And Lisa I sent her pictures of this one yesterday, and she sent me a message back saying it brought tears to her eyes to see it. She was really excited about it, which, oh, that just makes my day. I'm so happy when I get emails like that, when the clients are thrilled. And she didn't even have it in person yet. That's just from a picture. So I'm so happy when they get them back and they're thrilled with what was done with them. So we make a good team. You and I mean, you do the piecing and the fabric choices, and then I can help you finish it off. And one of my taglines is, I always like to say, every quilt is worth finishing, because whether it's your first one and you think, oh, I don't like the way this one came together, but once we finish it, and you get it back and you're just thrilled that you had it finished and you're so happy with it, or whether it's an antique quilt that you find in a cedar chest somewhere, it's worth finishing, because then you get it back and the joy that it brings to you. So whether it's your grandmother's quilt that you're finding, whether it's your first quilt, whether it's your 100th quilt, and you're thinking, I don't want to spend the money to have this quilted, you'll be happy you did. And some quilts, I know when you work on them, especially if there's a lot of pieces or maybe it's a pattern that wasn't coming together very well, or something frustrated you about the whole thing. And I know I've had clients give me quilts and it's like, I just don't like this one, but go ahead, take it. Do your magic. I hear that a lot. Do your magic with it and get it back to me, but I'm just really not happy with it. Sometimes you just need to get away from it for a while. You've been so close. You've been seeing, when you're piecing a quilt, you're seeing it this close all the time. So it's really fun when I can take that and I can finish the stitching on it and then give it back. And when you're seeing it from a distance and then pulling it in close. And then you see all that hard work that you went through. It was worth all that piecing or all that trouble that you went, because now you can step back from it and look at it. You're not looking at every little seam. You're not looking at every little point. Did I have it right? You're looking at the whole effect of it. And then you can be so proud of what you did. It's a good team effort. You do the fabrics and the piecing, and then I can do the quilting for you, and we make a good team. So that's what I have for you this week, and I hope you're inspired by something. I will put everything that I can find links to, I will put below. So if it's some fabric line that you like, some tool that you're interested in, whether it's a certain quilt pattern that you like. If you have a question about any of the pantographs, just send me an email, let me know. Jot down the names of the pantographs if you're interested. Either you're a long arm quilter or you have a long arm quilter and you like a design, you can write it down and take it to her and say, hey, can you find this one so that I can get this one on my next quilt? Or if you got some quilts coming up and you like this design, go ahead and jot it down so that you can remember that when you're sending it to me or taking it to your long arm quilter. It's always helpful when we know kind of things that you like. We want to make it for you, So thanks for joining me today, and I am so grateful that you're here each week. If you're new here, I'm so thankful that you've made it all the way to the end. It's a big help to me if you can subscribe to the channel. That lets me know that you're enjoying what I'm doing and that you want to see more. If you have comments, please leave those below. I have links to everything from my website to my newsletter sign up. All that's in the description. You can look at that if you're interested in that. Otherwise, I have lots of long arm quilting to get back to, and looking forward to finishing up some things. My calico garden, trying to get back to that this week, and my cutting the right size for my spool quilt. And so I'll try to show you those blocks next week. So I hope you are finding lots of time to quilt too, and we will see you back here next week.